So let's talk about Silicon Valley in the mid-90s. Peak arrogance, okay? You've got this company with a genuinely brilliant product, and they decide the best way to win isn't with better code. Nope, it's with a sign. A really, really stupid sign.
And this thing, it wasn't just a billboard. You could call it a murder weapon. I mean, it didn't just kill the company. It was basically a suicide note that they paid to have printed in giant letters for everyone to see. So get this. They put up a sign on Highway 101, the main artery of the valley. And where do they put it? Right outside Oracle's massive headquarters. It's this bright yellow warning sign, like for a deer crossing, only this one says, Dinosaur Crossing. Yeah, a direct shot aimed right at one guy, Larry Ellison. And the company with the, let's call it, boldness to pull this stunt? Informix. They were supposed to be the scrappy challenger. And they decided, you know what, let's publicly poke the biggest, meanest bear in the entire database jungle. What could possibly go wrong? But here's the absolute kicker. The thing that makes this whole story a tragedy, it wasn't just hot air. For a little while there, Informix was actually superior. They weren't just talking trash on a billboard. For a moment, they had a genuinely better machine. I mean, look at this. On one side, you've got Informix with a dynamic, scalable architecture. This was legitimately light years ahead of Oracle's aging, clunky legacy tech. From a pure engineering standpoint, it wasn't even a contest. Informix was faster, smarter. It was just plain better, period. But, and there's always a but, a company isn't just its code, right? It's the people running it. And this is where it all goes off the rails. The CEO of Informix, a guy named Phil White, had this one single fatal flaw. He stopped being obsessed with his own tech and became obsessed with the dinosaur. Suddenly, his entire goal just shifted. It wasn't about winning the market or building the best database company in the world. No, it became this personal thing. He wanted to humiliate Oracle. He wanted to personally defeat Larry Ellison. It was a vendetta. And here's the cold, hard reality check. The best tech doesn't always win. To beat Oracle, you had to sell like Oracle. And they were legendary, a ruthless sales machine. Informix? Well, they had a billboard. And their sales numbers were nowhere near matching their trash talk.
So what happens when your ego writes a check that your sales team can't possibly cash? Do you take down the billboard? Admit you got a little ahead of yourself? Of course not. You just decide to cheat. When reality doesn't match the billboard, you just lie.
And this wasn't just a little white lie. They started cooking the books in some pretty classic ways. First, they booked revenue for software that wasn't even sold yet. Then, they started forcing their distributors to take product they didn't want or need. It's an old trick called channel stuffing. Anything and everything to report these massively inflated numbers to Wall Street. And why do all this? What was the point? It was all done just to keep the stock price high enough to justify that stupid billboard, to keep the illusion going. The fraud wasn't an accident. It was a necessary feature to prop up their marketing.
Well, you can't fake it forever. Eventually, reality comes knocking. And for Informix, it came knocking on the most painfully ironic day you could possibly imagine. The day the joke was well and truly on them.
Just look at how fast this all happened. In '96, they start the billboard war. By the end of '96, they're already cooking the books to keep up appearances. And that leads inevitably to April 1st, 1997, the announcement. So the day comes. They have to get on a call with investors and just admit it. They basically say, yeah, you know all that money we said we were making? It wasn't real. They announce a massive, absolutely catastrophic revenue shortfall.
And Wall Street's reaction? Oh, it was swift. The stock didn't just dip. It fell off a cliff. 35%. A third of the company's value just gone, vaporized, in one day.
Of course, the headlines went crazy. This wasn't a story about a competitor beating them. This was a story about a company collapsing under the weight of its own ego. Oracle didn't have to do a thing. Informix killed itself.
So after all the dust settles, what's the final score? What happens to the hunter and the so-called dinosaur? It's pretty simple, actually.
Phil White, the CEO who started this whole thing, he gets indicted for securities fraud. He went to jail. And Larry Ellison? He just kept driving, right past the spot where that billboard used to be, on his way to work at his still-standing, ridiculously successful company.
So, what's the lesson here? It's so simple, it's almost insulting. If you're going to hunt dinosaurs, maybe, just maybe, make sure you don't go extinct first. It's a classic case of ego writing checks that reality can't cash. And it all comes back to this one simple question that just drives me crazy. If you have the better tech, if you've already built the better machine, why on earth would you lie? Why?